shows up. I'm not sure how many people will come on a Saturday, so I guess this will be our
Yes.
first time finding out. So how's everything going? Are you getting through everything okay, or are you running into any problems, or?
I have a problem in the project course. The robot don't jumping. I don't know because why happen this.
Oh, okay.
I add in Facebook the group in your group Facebook, and I have an error in Unity about link and the when I click in the mouse, the robot didn't jump. I don't
Okay.
know.
Can you share your screen and show it? Maybe we can figure out what's going on the call.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Can you share your desktop with the green
Okay.
screen share button?
¿Cómo puedo? How I can share you my desktop with you?
Here, let me share mine. Okay, you can kind of see this button up here on the top left.
Yeah.
The screen share one. If you hit that, it'll let you pick a monitor to share, and then it'll show that to the whole stream.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Oh, okay, perfect.
What?
And then, yeah, can you just open it up and we'll see why he's not jumping? See if we can fix it.
Sorry. This. No.
Oh, I think you have it on a different screen than the one that's shared. So I can hear it, but I can't see it. No, I just see a desktop, blank desktop background. Do you have two monitors on there?
I don't know. I don't know because you can't see the Unity.
No, I just see a blank desktop. Like you have a second screen on.
Sorry, I did to share the Unity, the project Unity, and I don't remember it. Services.
Oh, you're gonna share in Oh yeah, I think I can access that. Let me see. Yeah, let me see.
I'm looking for the tab.
Oh, okay. You go to Window and then Services.
Services, yes. Here and then collaborate. Okay,
yes.
On.
And then the dashboard. But I'm trying to remember. I think
Publish. No. Open story. Dashboard. I can go to dashboard. Go to dashboard and settings.
It's users.
User.
Yeah.
Users. Yes.
And then you should just be able to add.
I added you, Jason Wayman, Jason.
Use the Unity3D.college one. The
Yes.
Jason Unity3D.college.
You can open the project in your PC machine?
Yeah, as soon as it's shared, I should get a notification and then be able to open it and share it right here. Watching for that. Did you already do it?
Sorry, but sometimes I feel more sure writing and
Oh no,
not.
it's totally fine. Yeah, if you rather type too, that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Let me see.
Okay. No, you don't see the Unity software.
Not yet. No, I was just looking for an email. It's supposed to send an automatic email when it's shared. Let me see. Something that. Oh, I've already got that open. I'm trying to get my dashboard thing open to see if it's in there, and I'm just not getting a notification. It's loading up now. All right, web dashboard. Let me move this over here. Maximize this. Okay, so let's see.
I see the I see the Unity, I think.
Oh, you see my screen now?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So where is? I'm trying to see where I see all the other projects. Loading something. What is this? Uh, do you know what your project was named?
Sorry?
Actually here I can see. Yeah, I don't see. Oh, is it this one right here? I think this is right. Okay. Gotta find the right one in the list. I think it's this. All right, I think I'm opening it now. I'll know in a moment. You can still see my
Yeah.
screen, right?
Yeah, don't worry.
Okay.
I see your desktop at the moment.
All right. Let's see if this one opens up. I think it's almost done.
Yeah, don't worry.
Just importing and importing. Oh, come on. Another progress bar. All right. Okay, now I can open it up. In
Yes.
scenes there. Let's see. Oh, nice. Like the text. Okay. That seemed okay. So how did it break? So far it seems to be working okay. Oh, animation's a little weird. Die. 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 I can still jump. What was the problem you were saying? I thought you couldn't jump.
My robot,
Yeah.
you can jump at the moment. I don't know. The problem appeared when I did the lesson 8. Before the project works fine.
Okay.
I
Go ahead.
don't
I'm just trying to find. So, do you have everything committed
sorry.
and collaborate?
Do you the project now at the moment?
Yeah. This is yours, right? The one on my screen.
Okay.
Does this look like yours? With the text? So it seems like it works though. In this, do you have other changes that are not committed and collaborate yet?
Yeah.
Can you commit those so I can check and see if that's? I assume it's something new since the last time you committed. It looks like the last commit was from
I don't know because why
the 7th, 3 days ago. Can you just publish your other changes in right in here?
no, I can't do or you can see the Unity project in your video conference. I don't know.
Wait, do you see mine?
I
If you click on my name down on the bottom right, I think it's set to present, right? Because I think this is your project I have open, right? It's just an older version of it.
no, I can do it. Sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. Let me see. So if you look on the live stream, do you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. And you have other changes, right? That are not this. More stuff.
Yeah.
And if you go to collaborate, will it let you commit those changes up here?
Yeah.
Can you do that? And then I can pull the latest and see if you can commit. If you can publish that, then I can check the difference and see why it's broken. It should update automatically in here once you commit or once you hit publish. Let's see, which one is that? Oh, okay. Yeah, you can send me it by email. Sorry, I didn't see that. I was looking at a different screen. Yeah, that would totally be fine. Yeah, sure. Also, there's on this lesson in lesson 10, I should go through and do some adjustment to make that grounding stuff even better so it can do wall jumps and it changes some things in there. So just doing that part may fix the issue. But yeah, if you want to send it to me in Mega or something, that's fine. I can just take a look today whenever you get it to me and figure out what's
Okay.
going on. Yeah, not a problem at all.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, anytime. Cool. You have anything else going on, or it sounds like you're kind of busy right now? Is this a good time for Q&As for you, by the way, or is there a better time?
Okay.
Okay. Oh, I got one more person that's trying to join. Where did the other window go? Hey, looks like you made it in. There we go. Stop screen sharing. How's it going? Okay, yeah. Sorry, Alejandro. I was looking at the other screen when you typed that. You should be able to do it with the screen share. Just gotta. Do you have two monitors or just one?
One monitor at the moment.
Oh.
My monitor laptop.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. It seemed like it was sharing a different screen when you did it. Like it was sharing an empty one, and not the one with Unity on it. I don't know why. You can also do application window, but I've never tried that before. When you do the screen share, it's got the application window tab up there instead of entire screen. I didn't even notice that was there until just now.
Please don't worry. I send you my product if you don't problem about this.
Okay. Yeah, I
Thank
can
you.
do that. Yeah, no problem. I'd check that out. Typing in Facebook. Okay, I can see your chat in the in there. I can see where you typed that you can type here. Still can't get the hangout. I also see you in the hangout. I don't know why it doesn't it seems like it didn't have video enabled or audio. Oh, and we got another person. Nice. People are starting to hop in. But feel free, if you got questions, you can just type them out too. We're happy to answer them and just read them out loud and type in the answer or say the answers as well. James double joined. Just got to make sure I keep this screen up and visible. So does anybody have any other questions or problems? Anything they're stuck on? Just want to know about? Hey, Alejandro, what's that hanging on your wall back there?
I didn't understand you. Sorry, Jason.
Oh, I was just wondering what the thing on the wall is behind you.
Could you write a little, please? It's more easy for me. Ah, sorry. I understand you. Sorry. Yeah?
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah, what is that?
It's madera. I, uh, una, de madera.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
I see. It's hard to tell on the wall so far.
yeah. Sorry, I don't find the word to describe it. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. I think I get it. Yeah, if you got questions, feel free to type them out too. Just if you can't do voice chat, just ask away.
Uh,
Oh, hey.
Hi. Can you
Hi.
hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're perfect because I couldn't connect from the MacBook. I'm connecting from the iPhone.
Oh, okay. That fixed it, huh?
That's so okay. Okay.
Cool. So how's it going?
First of all, it's fine. It was hard to connect. I don't know why it is happening like this, but application is working at least. It's nice to see. I tried like the three different browser, but I couldn't connect. I don't know why.
Oh, weird. Yeah, I see you and James in here like 4 times each. Very weird.
Can be because I have been trying different browsers, trying different times. Like,
Yeah. Seems like it bugged
first of
out.
all, thank you for the educations and so on. I'm really liking it,
Oh, thanks.
and I would like to get more information like the extensions and so on because I have some quite experience in the game development and Unity, and I'm willing to get more deeper knowledge. So, like the using extensions and so on was the part which I was really curious and willing to get. One recent question is for checking the ground check, you change it in the uh, 10th course, I guess,
Yeah.
to array, and you are checking it in the update. Isn't it going to make a performance issue? If it's
No, not
ended up
doing.
in the
Oh, go
if
ahead.
it's going to and end up in the first one, you're breaking out. But if it's not, so and you're checking it on the every update, and who is designing it can design it like the 10 or 50 or even more in that area.
Yeah, it's the raycast there is pretty damn fast, so we could do a lot of them and have no performance impact. If you go through and profile it, you see it's not even noticeable. If we went up to thousands, it might get to be a problem, but doing even a dozen or two every frame isn't going to make any difference. It's going to be really small, and most of the
That's
time we're just doing one because we're on the ground anyway.
yeah,
But
that's right. But just if you're not, you are going to be checking it all. Instead of that, just using a one box collider, how does it going to affect the performance then? Like the which captures all the downside.
just using a box collider.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I've tried doing that before, and I ran into problems where it would. I'm trying to remember exactly what the issue was, but there were some issues where it didn't feel natural when I did the box collider. I have to play with it again. It's been, I don't know, 6 months or so since I did it, but it worked a lot better with just doing raycasts down. And I don't, when I profiled it, like I said, there was no performance hit at all on doing the raycasts off the character, so just went with that. Even done like a stream of raycasts where they're like, you know, half a dozen or a dozen raycasts in that tiny little area, and it's super quick to do those little raycasts. They're small. Yeah.
Because I mean, putting it in the update function, it makes it like the adapting about it for me, at least.
Invoke
And
repeating. I've James asked about using invoke repeating for calls. You, I don't know if I would use it. I personally just don't like it because it's I find it hard to discover, and I've seen a lot of people kind of go through projects and try to figure out why something is getting called a bunch of times, and then take quite a while to figure out that it was because of an invoke repeating. And I don't know about the performance now, but it used to be a bit slower using that, but it may they may have sped that up too. It's been a while, like I said, since I used it, probably a good 4 or 5 years. But I don't know that there's any reason necessarily not to use it other than the discoverability issue. It's the same thing with starting coroutines by string name drives me nuts because you go look for references to that code and nothing shows up and you don't know, why the hell.
And it's also hard to track back. Like you're not going to be able to find the references easily for the mock calls.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem there. It's just that lack of discoverability, and then the editor or the code editors can't detect it either, and it's but yeah.
I had another question, but I'm trying to think it up.
All right, go ahead.
For me, I wonder two more things. First of all, are you going to be giving the all source code at the end of the, let's say, two the parts ended? Are you going to be giving all the source code, or should we focus on keeping our own track?
Yeah, I can. I just didn't want to do it before the end of it, just because then people will kind of skip past stuff, and I know a lot of people have. I do it too. If I have the full source code, I just kind of skip ahead, look at it, and not really learn it. But yeah, I can make it all available. It's actually up, and there's a link posted in Facebook for the first part. If you want to grab it, but I can put it just up there after it's done too, so everybody can download it and go through stuff. Like after the lessons are done for the 2D stuff. Just drop that up there.
It makes much more sense because you're going to be changing the things, refactoring and so on. At the end of it makes much more sense.
Yeah.
And if you are going to sharing or not, also there's another question, like how is going to be the policy of the republishing or redoing your stuff, your works, rights of the works, what you are doing?
What do you mean?
Anyone who follows your codes can create a source code and publish it on somewhere else. So how the rights are going to be?
I don't know. Yeah, if you wanna publish stuff, feel free. This is not the videos. Like, yeah, if you're gonna publish the code, build the games, turn them into something real too. Like, that's cool. Launch them. Yeah, totally fine.
In any way, it needs to be polished more, but like I wanted to learn because I can really use some part of it. There are really cool learning sessions there have been. So I'm
cool.
happy
Yeah, feel free.
To see that. Okay, that's nice.
Looks like we got Jerry popped in. And I'll look at the chat too. All right, nothing there. Yeah, anybody got any other questions? Oh, by the way, I was gonna ask. I was gonna send this out in an email, but I think for Monday, what I want to do first is just do some stuff on deployment and touchpads, so everybody can take the mobile stuff and deploy it, or the 2D stuff and deploy it to mobile device, put it onto a phone or Android tablet, and then do like a WebGL one too, so everybody can go through the whole process of deploying a couple things, because then we can use that on the next projects as well, just to add in some pad controls if anybody wants to play on a tablet and do the deployments. Is anybody interested in that or not interested in that? I'm just kind of curious. I was going to send out a little survey thing today, just to make sure that it wasn't something that nobody cared about. But
yeah, that sounds cool.
Okay.
I agree. Cool. I like the idea of the mobile deployment. I think that sounds like a good idea.
Okay. Cool. I figured it. Was that?
I'm so much familiar with those things, so I'm going to adopt the survey, I guess.
Oh, sorry, a bunch of noise just popped up right when you said that. All I heard was a bunch of dinging.
I am so much used to for those process, so I'm going to be out of the survey, I guess. Like it's much more better for the others.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool. So yeah, anybody have any other questions or stuff that they want to know about, learn about?
I have a few more, but it is not related to directly the course, like the much more, let's say, technical.
Oh,
If
okay.
anyone else want to ask something, I can let this turn to pass to them. I have been talking a lot.
Yeah, did anybody else have any questions? Doesn't look like it. It's pretty quiet.
Are you going to be coming up to the hackathon at USC this week?
I think so. It looks like I'm probably not going to do a workshop there just because I can't get the timing right. But I think I'm going to come up one of the evenings and just hang out, check stuff out, and help people.
Cool. Looking forward to seeing you. I noticed that there's a Dan Miller who's giving a couple of Unity classes.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'll have to see when that is. Maybe I can go check those out. That'd be cool.
Monday.
Is it Monday? Okay. I'll find out the time. That'd be cool though, because yeah, it's just the timing was just terrible. I really wanted to go and just hack and make some VR game, have a lot of fun, but yeah, it just did not work out at all.
You need to have a hackathon in San Diego.
Yeah, that'd be cool. There've been a couple, but they kind of were small. I'd like to do another big one. I don't know. Even the small ones are fun, but just got to do one soon. I just need my wife to get home first.
That'll probably be good all around.
Yep.
I sent something on the YouTube chat. Like, actually, there's a 4 different classes for the optimizing this. Like, how can we much more better instead of just using the like when you are using the subclasses, let's say.
Oh, what do you mean optimizing it? Like for performance?
Like, or the making it more reasonable. Like there's the one point which I see, like the car body is driven by car, but this can be, or how can we make this much more reusable?
I'm not quite sure I understand. Can you explain a little bit more? I want to make sure that I get this right.
We have 4 different class. Like one of them is car, the other one is car body, and car door and the car wheel. Let's say this can be a different parts of the other objects. This is just an making the things. When you are making the subclass or the making the inheriting the from the parent classes, let's say car is normal class and the car body is driven by the car using the car script, but and the car door is also from car body and the values from the car body. So to make this much more reusable, how we can arrange it? Like, I mean, I'm when I see this, I was thinking like the main problem can be car body cannot be driven by a car because car is going to be the whole complex. But I don't know, is there be any other way to fix it or to change it, the system?
I don't know. It would depend a lot on what parts you wanted to reuse and why you wanted to reuse them. So, because some of those things just may not make sense to be really reusable if they're that specific to the thing. And I've seen a lot of people try to do that, like try to make some things that really don't need to be reusable, and then struggle with it and spend a lot of time on it. One of my good friends who's like a hardcore web developer does that all the time, and he'll go in there and kind of overcomplicates them and adds in a bunch of functionality that he never ends up using. For separating those out though, like you have like a car part, and then all of your parts inherit from that car part, I assume, like the body, the door, the wheels, and everything else. And I guess it's fine to do it like that as long as that car part is relatively small and just abstract, and it has very little implementation in it. Another option is to just use interfaces there, but I guess it depends a lot on what it is you want to get done with those different parts. Like, how are those parts interacting with the car? Are they just reading data from the car to handle their interactions, like to get state data and stats and stuff? Because if that's the case, I would probably pull that state data. Again, this may be overcomplicating for the project, but what I usually do is try to pull all of that state data and the stats type stuff out of the actual car class and have them in just an object that just has the data. It's not a mono behavior or anything else, just an object that has the data that they can reference. So then you can just basically dump that into those other parts with so give those just access to that and not the actual car itself, just to break that dependency. But again, it really depends on the project whether or not it's worth doing it. If you have a bunch of different cars and they're all different like that, then I would probably pull all that stuff out and put all the stats stuff into just a scriptable object that's storing all that data there that you can edit in the editor, but it's not actually on the game object or the prefab. Then you can just drop those in. I think it's hard to say though without kind of looking at the project and just thinking super abstract about it. It is a good question.
I get your point. Yeah, like I get your point, and this is a kind of my how to say. I think I'm overthinking about simplifying the things, dividing them a lot. It's because it's happening because of them. You can be just having them even without cars, but trying to use the single purpose coding style, so it makes it like the dividing them a lot and trying to inherit them.
Yeah. Well, the dividing is definitely good. Inheriting is less useful in Unity, I think. I mean, I still use inheritance in Unity, but I try to go with separate components a lot more, just keeping the things less inherited. It just makes it easier to follow that single responsibility when there's no inheritance, because otherwise you start to get down to things in the base class start to do too much and they start to do different things. So it starts to build up. But yeah, I still, of course, use plenty of inheritance. It's just usually from abstract classes, ideally. So it's got some base implementation that tells the systems how to work with the class, but that's about it. And it's just using those over an interface because there's some level of tiny bit of shared functionality in there.
Are you going to make the abstract classes and the inheritance comparison in the master class, like the tutorial?
I think
you have
there's
one in the YouTube, but apart from that, like the showing another demo or something.
There'll be some in some of the other projects. I didn't want to put them in the first one just because I figured some of the people won't know what an abstract class is or what an interface is even. So you just start off with just interfaces. But yeah, we'll be doing some a little bit of that in the architecture of the upcoming projects, so that you can kind of see at least a couple cases where I would use abstract classes and inherit from them compared to when we separate out into separate components.
Thank you. And how many projects we are planning to finish in total? Like we are started with the 2D, and what are the?
So the next one will be top down, like hack and slash, multiplayer, fighting and killing things, and talk a lot about controls and diving into more of the code stuff like the abstract classes, interfaces, and just general composition. And then after that, I'm going to go on to a shooter that's like 2D, or actually third person and first person. So set it up so we can go back and forth between the different controls, and build out like a full first person shooter and run around and kill stuff. And I got some cool art stuff lined up for that too. So excited about. And then on the VR part, we're going to dive in and turn that into a VR game. So it's going to be the hack and slash thing next, and then the shooter after that. We'll go through all those. Hack and slash should be, like I said, multiplayer, run around, kill things, and slash things and cast spells at them. Should be cool. And it is a lot about the separation of controls and characters, and keeping that abstracted away and not just directly tying it onto the character itself. So you can do character selection and that kind of stuff. And then the other one will be more standard shooter, but going back and forth between different camera views and going through all the processes and all the parts to actually build a shooter. I think we can get through essentially everything that you need to build like a full working shooter in a couple weeks.
Okay, that's a good.
Cool. And James likes scriptable objects. It's your base body that takes a scriptable object, parts kind of thing. Yeah. Do it that way. Totally. Cool. Yeah, you could even set up different scriptable objects for the different parts in different settings and then compose the whole car or object, like let them customize the wheels, and that just pulls in a different scriptable object that tells it what model to use and what the stats are. Do some interesting stuff. I kind of want to make a car thing.
I have a VR question for you. I know it's kind of silly and it's basically Google kind of stuff, but because I am planning on taking the VR course, I've decided that it is something I've wanted to do, so I do plan on taking it. I'm waiting to buy the VR till I think it's after the 15th. I'm debating on obviously the Rift or the Vive. I know that you have the Vive. Are you particularly biased towards it, or do you have a viewpoint which one's better? Because the Vive Pro is coming out, and I feel like I'm right in the middle, and I don't know if it's the best approach to go. And I'm hearing that the Rift is the better option to go for.
So I have both of them and the Microsoft one. Oh, I can hear myself talking.
Oh, you have their mixed reality headset?
Yeah, it's really just a VR headset. They call it a mixed reality headset, but it's this thing right here, and it's just a regular old VR headset. And you can tell the way the thing's zip tied up. I never use it. It's out of all of them, this one was the worst. Between the Vive and the Rift, I still prefer the Vive for the tracking. Like the way my desk is set up and stuff, setting up the cameras for the Rift just doesn't work. I have to back up really far because the cameras have to be a certain distance from you. They have to be a certain spread, and it just doesn't work at all. And I can't use it the way that my room is set up. Like it's relatively useless. So I just use the Vive, and then I've got the trackers just mounted up on the ceiling. So I can use them almost anywhere upstairs and just grab the Vive, and then it works for multiple Vives too, which is nice. Like I said, I have the Rift over here, but it's just I don't even have the cameras are tipped over right now because they just don't fit very well up here. Comfort wise, the Rift is a little bit lighter. I prefer the Vive with the headset though, the deluxe audio strap. And then like controllers about the same. Just depends on what you like to play. If you like to play shooters, then the Vive is better. If you like to play stuff where you use your hands, the Rift controllers are a little bit better for that. So I mean, generally, if price isn't an issue, I'd recommend the Vive Pro. If you're gonna save money, the Rift is still a good option. You just got to make sure that you have space to put the cameras in front of you, where they'll be, you'll be visible to it at all times.
Did you get your hands on the Valve Knuckles yet?
No, not yet. I've seen them. One of my friends has some, but I haven't gotten around to actually trying to get some myself. Should probably do that one day. I just wasn't sure when or if they're actually going to release them for consumers. So it seemed like be developing for something that I don't know when anybody's ever actually going to get them or if they will.
Yeah, they look really cool.
They do. They look great. Let's see. Jerry asked about the Unity certified developer stuff. It seems cool. I was surprised the price is a little high for taking a test, but I guess it's semi-standard for software stuff. And there's no downside to it. I haven't really felt inclined to do it, but I think if somebody's coming out just starting up and especially with no experience, I think it's a good way to get an extra heads up or step up trying to get in an interview, trying to get a job. It wouldn't hurt, but
Have you
it's not like.
Have you looked at their what they test on versus what you're teaching?
So I've looked at the study materials for it. I haven't actually looked at the test, but I looked at the study materials, and it was mostly really basic stuff. But they cover a lot. They cover the basics of just about every system in the engine. From what I remember, it was you go into animations, you go to audio, you go to particle systems, and it's like, can you do the very basics of everything? They don't focus very much on code at all. From what I remember, it was like 10 or 20% code, and the rest was all the just knowing the different editor systems. Like I said, I don't see a downside to it. I think anybody looking for a job and if you don't already have a lot of experience that you can put on the resume, I think it helps. At the very least, it shows that you're interested enough to pass the test, and you can at least pass the test. A lot of people can't do that. And then on the
camera.
Yeah, it's off now.
Sorry to interrupt. I turned on camera because I was losing the voice, and you have been talking about the Unity certification test.
Oh.
I am one of the Unity certificate developer. Actually, I took it like 2 years ago. Even it's about to expire. At first, it was a kind of thing, but right now, so many people has the Unity developers certificate, so it doesn't even mean much stuff. Generally, they check what you have been published or doing.
Yeah.
And there is right now like the Unity is adding a new certificate like the Unity expert developer or something. I don't know the exact name right now. So it's going to be 2 level.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember when we talked to them at Unite last time, they were saying that they have like a huge program they're trying to do around education with a whole bunch of programs, and this was a year ago, so yeah, they're probably moving forward on that. I didn't hear about the expert test. That's interesting. I have to check that out.
Yeah, the expert test looks fine, but they haven't. I mean, there is no demo test yet. Just a guideline for what you should know about it. So normal certificated test was easy. Most of the people who ever using Unity around 3 or 4 more can pass it. But I'm really curious about the expert test also.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. Go ahead.
I was just going to make a comment because I've read up on what he was talking about. The expert course was not really a course. It's just a test. It's just for people who it claims for people who've been in the industry for several years. And then I read you can request a document that shows some of the questions on the test that they offer, and they're way more advanced than I do because I don't have any industry experience. But they just basically ask for gameplay programmers as one of the tests, and they ask questions relating to that. What would be the best performance-wise to do this? Like if you were doing object pooling, or if you were creating a scene with X amount of objects, what would you object pool and what would you just instantiate on the fly? And it was like questions like that were obviously way above my head, but it was an interesting little thing. But they didn't have any course for it, just the test.
Yeah, just a test, and they are sending you around 10 questions, not more than that, and a guideline to where to study more.
Just 10 questions? That's kind of underwhelming.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to dive into that after this. That's interesting. Had not seen that. Just kind of curious what they're doing there. And then the question on the MR headsets, complaints about the MR headset. I had a couple. So on this thing, first, the strap in the back is total crap, like compared to all the others. It was uncomfortable. I have a big giant head, and it didn't really fit on my head very well, so it was squeezed really tight. A lot of light came through down on the bottom, and the controllers sucked because you had to keep them in front of the headset the whole time, and they felt boxy and kind of crappy compared to the other controllers. So if this thing was like $150 or maybe $199, I could see it being okay. But when they came in at the same price as the Rift, it's just nowhere near as good as the Rift for the price. Like, you get better build quality, more comfortable, better controllers. The only benefit of the MR headsets was that you don't have to do any like position based set. You don't have to put any other things down. You can just take the headset and the controller and plug it in and then take it somewhere. You still have to review the setup for the room, but I remember that being pretty easy. That, and when I installed the damn thing, I had to reinstall Windows to get it to work. Even Microsoft couldn't get it to work on my system without a full reinstall, because it just wouldn't update. It was a giant pain in the ass. It took like a week to get it working. But yeah, I mean, like I said, if it was cheap, it'd be cool, but at the same price as the Rift, it's just not anywhere near as good. Yeah, that's actually where I got mine too. Yeah, and I did the same. I played with it. I think I've put it on like 4 or 5 times total, and they were all in the span of a week. And then I zip tied the cord up, and I haven't yet found another reason to pull it out, and I got just better alternatives available.
Yeah, I didn't realize that the cost was equivalent on some of the Rift.
Yeah, it's like $299, I think, and then the Rift was $299 or $350. So depending on the sale that you got, so it just seemed like you just get the Rift at that price.
You guys talk about a lot of conferences and meetings and stuff that you guys go to. What are the names of some of these things?
So the one you mentioned there was the Vision Summit, that they do it I think they do it once a year, and it's like just a virtual reality conference that they've been holding in Southern California for a while. I think they might have moved it up to the Bay Area though. And then there's the Unite conferences that they do all over the world. Those are awesome too. If you ever get a chance to go to one, if there's one local, yeah, definitely check it out, because you get to go just meet a ton of other developers and see a lot of cool stuff before it's released. And you can always watch the talks online later, but it's just a good place to go check out all the new stuff that's coming and actually talk to the people that are making the new stuff or people that are using the stuff. So I definitely recommend going to Unite, especially if they do one in LA again. That was really cool, because they rented out all of Universal, or half of Universal Studios, for their party too. It's nice. It's a good time. But yeah, you get to meet a lot of Unity developers and people that work on the engine and talk to them there. And then there's a ton of meetups too. I don't know. Where are you located?
I'm in Washington.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So I was going to tell you that Unity meetup, and my friend never responded, but I sent the link, or I think I posted the link in Facebook. I'm going to post it again. So Seattle. Apparently they have gotten huge. Their Unity group has almost 3,000 members in the Seattle one. Here, I just posted the link in the chat.
Oh, meetup. Yeah, I was looking at Seattle Indies, and there was some group that's every Saturday, but I didn't know about the meetup thing.
This one it's a big group. You can see they've got 47 RSVP'd for something that happens in 2 weeks. Like, I think they get over 100 people in their meetups.
Yeah, it'd be cool. I'm really trying to branch out right now, because I've been pretty much going solo at this since I started. So I'm trying to find all this information. It's amazing just how much you guys all know about all these conferences and places, and me, I have no idea how you guys know all this.
I kind of stumbled into it. I went to one kind of on a whim and kind of liked it, and then just made the decision to try going to a bunch more. And now I just try to go to them whenever I can, even if I'm not going to get a whole lot out of the subject that they're talking about. I try to go and just talk to people and meet people. I've made a lot of new friends doing that, and talk to people who have all kinds of different insight into game development in the industry, and also gotten a ton of contract jobs from this kind of stuff. So it's definitely worth going and checking out. And if you start going regularly, you just kind of start to meet people, and then people offer you jobs. It works pretty well. That and the hackathons. Hackathons are great. So if you've never been to one of those, it's like take over an area, or they'll have an area that's donated essentially, and people go there, bring all their stuff, bring all their hardware, get into teams, build games, and then they usually have a little judging thing at the end and some prizes for the best games. And it's a lot of fun because you just go in there with the idea that you're going to build something that you can only do in whatever it is, a weekend or a day or two. I think the one that's coming up now is 3 or 4 days, starting Monday. But they just get in, go into teams of 4 or 5 people, and make something awesome. And it's a lot of fun. You kind of learn a lot of new things there. So people that are less experienced are going to pick up a lot from the more experienced developers. But then even if you've got a lot of experience, you're going to still pick up other stuff from the other developers there, and just seeing what other people are doing. It's also a good way to get a lot of ideas, because you'll see 20 different projects get built all over the process or the span of a weekend. So there's all kinds of interesting kind of unique ideas that pop up out of that you can learn from or take from. It's really cool. I highly recommend hackathons, even more than meetups. Plus, you also make those connections a lot stronger when you're working on a team with somebody for a couple days. Like, I've made a lot of pretty close friends from just going to hackathons, and now we talk all the time about game development stuff and hire each other back and forth for different game dev jobs. And they're definitely worth going to, even if you don't know what you're doing. Like I said, a lot of the time people go on and they've got little to no experience. Or, I mean, I've had people on my teams at hackathons who, like, their sole job was to help test and to pick out sound effects, because they didn't really know how to code, but they wanted to learn game development, so they wanted to be a part of it. And they kind of picked up a couple things going through there, and then eventually some of them turned themselves into game developers afterwards. So it's not like you have to go in there knowing a lot or having a ton of experience. You just have to go in there and have fun and try.
Sounds good. I've heard that the West Coast is very volatile when it comes to working in the game industry, and the East Coast is more stable. What's your opinion on that?
I don't know. So I haven't seen much volatility on the West Coast personally. But I also have never worked for a company that was on the East Coast, so it's hard to say. Like, I don't know if there's really much of a difference. But I think of Seattle and LA are kind of some of the bigger hubs for game development, at least on the West Coast. And then there's Austin, of course. But most of the stuff I see is either in Seattle or the LA area for game development. I think it's still just more popular. People like it, like the West Coast. Oh, and Jerry posted a link to some VR and AR conferences.
I'm saving them all to a notepad.
I don't know what's coming up now. Oh, VR LA is coming up in May. It's always fun. Always packed too, though.
The VRLA event last year was really awesome.
Yeah.
And just the expo section on it was just terrific. I looked at some of the posters and it was like, yeah, I didn't do any of the talks, but just the Saturday event was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was cool. It was tiring though. I wanted to go to some of the talks and I missed a lot. It's kind of sad. But I'm probably gonna go this week or this year. Go check it out. Oh, and it looks like Vision Summit's still in Hollywood sometime. That's gonna be awesome.
I remember last year going to, I think it was a year or so ago. This was back when I was tinkering around with Java programming, and I was interested in independent development at the time. And there was a thing up in Seattle, and it was at their museum or something, and it was an indie game expo that they were having, where they were supposed to be indie developers, and then they were showcasing all the games. And then I go all the way up to Seattle to see this. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be so cool! I'll get to see all these indie developers and get to talk to them, and it'll be really cool. And then I go, and there's not a single indie developer, and instead it's just all their games to play. And I was so brokenhearted because I just wanted to
Oh,
meet other people, and there wasn't. And I was like, oh, well, that kind of sucks. And then yeah, Java wasn't the best approach to game development, but I really liked the language at the time, so it was my approach.
yeah.
So yeah, I remember that event I tried to go to, and it was just a bummer.
Yeah, that does suck. Now, I've been to some bad events myself too. It happens on occasion. You get there and you're just like, I don't know why I drove all the way out here. This sucks. But a lot of the time, or most of the time, I'd say they're worth it and they're fun. The VR events are usually pretty fun. They're also really packed. Just gotta expect a lot of people to be there. But the conferences are great too. Like those are some of my favorite times. Just going to the different conferences. Plus, they're dramatically cheaper than any other conferences you go to. At least the ones that I go to, like the Unite conferences and the Vision Summit ones. They charge like $200-300. But compared to like a normal developer conference, it's like 3,000. They're a steal.
Why
So,
yeah, I saw that. Somebody said something they're going to GDC, and I'm not saying that was the price for all of the packages, but one of the packages was something like $2,500.
oh yeah, that's like, I think that's like the standard package. That's if you want to go to all the stuff. And the reason is just because big companies are paying for that stuff. So it's not the developers that are paying for it. It's their companies that are paying to send them there. And with the VR stuff and the Unity stuff, it seems to be it's more the actual developers that are going on their own. It's not there's just not enough people there. Yeah, or enough people that will pay ridiculous amounts of money to go there, or companies that'll send them. So they keep their prices reasonable, which is nice. Yeah, I've been to some of those other ones, and yeah, like $2, $3, $4,000 to go to a conference is crazy, especially when you're really just going to hang out and talk to people and watch some talks that you could watch online.
I dropped a link in there on SIGGRAPH. If James is up in Seattle, he might want to bounce up to Vancouver for that one in August.
Is it Vancouver, Washington, or Vancouver, Canada?
Vancouver. Yeah, it's Vancouver, BC. You got to cross the border. Take your passport.
My passport's expired. What are you talking about? I haven't left the country in like a decade.
Same here.
Yeah, I haven't left since we needed passports to leave.
Hey, you're from the wrong state. You're going to need to get one. But not California.
Let's see. SIGGRAPH. Yeah, that'd be cool too.
It was, I mean, I've been doing it for a couple of decades, and I hadn't seen it in a decade, but I went this last summer, and the amount of stuff that was happening in the VR AR area was spectacular. A lot of cool demos and people bringing out their research projects and so forth.
Yeah, I've heard good things too. I had a friend who loves going to SIGGRAPH. Talks about it all the time. Need to, yeah, I don't know. I gotta go sometime. That was one of the more expensive ones, though, isn't it? If I remember right.
It's very expensive if you don't do if you're trying to do the papers and panels and all that. I just do the expo.
Oh, okay.
I did papers and panels for a while, but then if you're not in the R&D side of things, they're just not worth it. You can read it all or watch the talks later.
Yeah, makes sense.
So you guys mentioned papers, panels, and then expo. What's the difference between all that?
Papers and panels are where they have the sage on the stage or sages on the stage up in front talking about their stuff. Quite often the papers sections, like at SIGGRAPH, everybody who gets, all the academics, they submit their papers, they go through their jury, they get selected, and then they basically give you a 15 to 60-minute talk about what they said in their paper. And quite often it's just people who aren't used to public speaking because they're academics, and it gets really ridiculous in my opinion on that one. The panels can be a lot more interesting because they're open-ended and you get people talking about interesting stuff. The exhibits or the expo side of it is the open area where there's demonstrations and vendor booths and so forth. It's the vendor booths are neat to go and see what people are selling, and even better are all the the demo expositions. That was one of the best parts of VRLA last year, is they had a whole area cordoned off for just artist expositions, and it was really cool, the interactive pieces that artists had done.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. I just see the results of them usually on the YouTube. That's about all I've seen of a conference or anything like that.
Yeah, the expo parts are always cool and cheap, but you got to get there early or on a less busy day sometimes. Like the VRLA one is talking about, on Friday, the expo lines were like 10 to 15 minutes, and then on Saturday, a lot of them went up to being measured in the hours. It's kind of like at E3, except at E3 there's no time where they're short.
I'm just shocked at how popular VR is in the programming world. I was about 6 months ago or something close to that is when I bought my PlayStation VR, and that was because I was interested in it. And it didn't seem as if it was something very, very popular. It seemed good and seemed like some people had interest in it or whatnot. And then a couple months after that is when I started to get into Unity and programming. And then that's when I just see nothing but everybody's doing VR. And I was like, man, I just bought this PlayStation VR. I can't just go out and buy another one, because I was researching. I was like, oh, maybe I can connect my PlayStation to my PC and program for it. And there was kind of a hack around for that, but it's not a very reliable one. And then obviously, like, you had sent me an email and was trying to program for the PlayStation requires a developer license. And so that was a big bummer. And so I just decided to hold off on doing any VR, but I keep saying it's really popular and it's something I wanted to do, because why not just expand your horizon and take over everything? And I do like VR. So it was something that bugged me, but then I found a solution, and that was I can just sell my VR and then buy a new one and then just eat the slight loss, because it's not much, because I didn't use my VR too much, because programming, I don't have time to play video games.
That's the problem with making games.
Yeah, I don't think I've played a game in, I think, 3 months or something, just because it's just, I don't have time. I'd rather just program something, get that done. I don't know. I'm thinking that maybe
you get that same rush when you make a quick game as when you play one,
It's your own gaming.
Yep.
I like it a lot better than the video games. You can dive right in and build your own worlds, rather than going and exploring other people's. Either that or you're spelunking through other people's code.
Yeah.
I actually hate going through other people's code. I don't know what it is, but every time I read, because how I learned some of these things is I buy asset store packs, some things like certain controllers or certain things that I buy, and then I just go through their code, break it down, and then convert it to my own use, is how I've been doing it lately. But still, sometimes going through people's code, I don't understand. I've seen these things on the asset store, and I'm baffled as to how it became, how they could just, that code is just, it's weird. I don't know how to word it. It doesn't look like very like what you would expect from such a product. You expect when you buy something that it's something that's just gonna have perfect code and then it's gonna work flawlessly. But then you buy it and you're like, I spent $70 on this, and yeah, it does what it says it does, but you know, you were just expecting something else. I don't know. It's really weird.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean because most code is terrible. Most of it's just crap, to be honest. Like most stuff that you find online or anywhere is gonna be bad, and I mean, it's just a side effect of anybody can code, and it takes a long time. It takes a good amount of practice at least to get the code to be relatively clean, and even then, you're still gonna fuck it up sometimes. So it's yeah, it's kind of a testament that like you can make a cool game or a cool project or even an asset without having good code. It just makes it harder for you. But like it reminds me of that Reddit post about that Celeste game. I don't know if you guys saw that one, but there's it was a really popular game on Steam. Fun game, looks great. It seems like it plays great. They released the code for the player controller, and it was totally terrible. It was like 6,000 lines of a big confusing mess, but it works, and that's more important than anything is that that the game is fun, right, and that the game works. But keeping the code clean, while it makes stuff a whole lot easier on you and makes it a lot easier to expand your project, build on your project later, fix things, and not have bugs, you can still have something that works with terrible code and be successful with it. Like you don't have to have everything perfect. I hate saying that because like I like to have the code as perfect as possible, but realistically, like as long as it works and you don't need to go back in and change it, then it's okay.
Yeah,
It's one of those things where you just gotta avoid, I guess. I wouldn't say necessarily you need to avoid over engineering there, but you just gotta remember that like you can just you don't have to know how to do everything perfect to make a game and make the game work. You just gotta spend the time and the effort on the game and really dig in.
yeah, that's I would like to know what your approach is because that's what freaks me out is mainly those controllers. Is anytime you look at most game source code and you look at their controllers, they're always thousands of lines of code or just an extreme amount. I've never had that much. I've never built a game that big though, granted, so it's not really a fair comparison, but I've yeah, I don't know. How would you go about reading through that and breaking it down? What's your strategy for that?
On that big thing, it's kind of tough because I mean, really, what to do is start looking for different chunks of functionality and just start ripping those out and splitting them into separate classes. And then you kind of got to do that first just to figure out where the breakpoints are and where you can kind of hook things up cleanly. Um, I don't know, like in a file that big, it's a bit tough. But I've been doing something similar on another project where I've got some absurdly large classes that are in like the tens of thousands of lines, and just going through and actually replacing parts. So if there are chunks of functionality that are big and taking up a ton of space in one of these classes, and just trying to find out where I can pull those out and separate them one at a time. But when they get that big, you really have to go kind of just piece by piece on it and just start stripping things out semi slowly, unless you can just focus on just that task of stripping it out. You got to go relatively slow and just take it out chunk by chunk. And with the other problem with a project like that one is like testing it has got to be a nightmare because everything is all kind of from what I can tell, everything's super tightly coupled. So any little change in there could break some shit, on some random level that only applies to some weird edge case that controller was doing. So
Yeah.
it'd be a nightmare. Like in that case, I would just not refactor that thing because there's just not a benefit to it. It already works and it's there. But some of this other stuff, like the one I was talking about, these 10,000 line things, this is like a project that's supposed to go on for a decade or more and need constant updates. So stripping that stuff out and cleaning it up is kind of vital to the long term success of the project. So I think a lot of it depends. on how long the thing's going to be around, how much you're going to actually be working on it. Like I said, if it's like an asset that you grabbed on the asset store, it works and does what it needs to do, and you don't have to change the code, then whatever, just leave it. But if it's something that you got to keep going back to, and every time you change it, it's going to break something or be at, the worst is when you're afraid to change things because you're afraid it's going to break shit, which happens a lot when projects get out of hand like that. So I just want to avoid that.
Yeah, it's a problem just because all these, like I said, I get these assets mainly to learn from them and not to use them. I use them for, for their functionality, their demo scenes or whatever. But then most of the time I want to build on what they've already got, but it's usually problematic because a lot of times they build it differently than I do anyways, because I go for the modular design like you do. And I love that design actually. I've been working my way to getting better and better at it. But I know the last project I did, I tried to make it to where it was basically one script that was the controller, and then you had all these components on it, other scripts that were for different functionality, and then you could remove any one of those components and not break it. So if you, for example, you wanted to be invincible, you wanted infinite health, you just take off the health script and then nothing can hurt you. They can still see you, everything can be interacted, but you can no longer be hurt, or if it was an AI thing, it would be taking off a certain AI component, but then everything would still work, just taking off individual pieces. It's like, that's where I was thinking where it came to like the car body part and then the scriptable objects on top of it kind of thing. I just think that's what I try to do, is have the base class and then a bunch of other components that attach to it but aren't attached to it coupled. It's just, it's on there and then you can remove it all willy-nilly.
Yeah, and just loosely couple them with some event registration or something. Totally agree. Because then you can start to compose different behaviors just by adding in your different components. Then you can swap out different components with slightly different functionality if you want. Hey, Chris just showed up too.
Hey,
what's going on, Chris?
And you're talking about all the coding stuff. One of the things that's interesting and problematic is how prevalent coding has become, and people are jumping in with no training or minimal training, and they're self-taught and they know how to do. They get past the syntax and the design and other, what we used to call software engineering, just goes out the window and they don't do any of it. It's one of the things that I've been enjoying about your code and your lessons here is how much you're just naturally throwing that in of like, we needed to design it this way because it's better this way. And your little hints in those, I hope people pick up on and follow along. Makes a big difference if you write clean code, because next week when you have to go back and look at the code you wrote, you're wondering what the hell you were doing.
Oh yeah. No, and I've in the distant past written plenty of very non-clean code. I didn't realize it either. I think when I started, I just kind of did the same thing where a lot of this stuff was just make it work and no thought about the code quality or architecture at all. I think that happens to most people when they get in, unless you're really guided from the start to keep things clean. Most of the time when I see people go into a new programming job as like junior developers, they just kind of write some of the worst stuff you've ever seen. But it works. Usually that's the thing, like it'll get the job done, but as long as that job doesn't ever change and isn't complicated, it'll be fine. And then it just takes a while and a lot of those failures to really start to recognize it. Although Chris just joined in, he's the guy that does the mob programming stuff that I talked about before. I talked about it in emails and on a video recently, and they're doing their junior developers, from what I see, are learning things the right way, which is really nice because they're just working side by side with other developers, 3 or 4 others that really know what they're doing, and they kind of teach, and it's another benefit of that style that they've got there. Their junior developers aren't learning bad habits from the start. like most of us did, starting out at least. Yeah, Clean Code. By the way, Clean Code, great book. I don't know if you guys have read it. I just saw Jared mention the words, but very, very good book. That and Code Complete. They're both on Java stuff, but the functionality or the concepts in general are I think they apply across all software development and they're great. Oh, and then what did Chris link? Design Stamina Hypothesis. I have not seen this. So Martin Fowler, right? Oh, check that out. No design. Oh, yep. There you go. That little chart there on his link. There, no design, and you start to get a little bit more payoff and more functionality really quick. But then it falls apart after a certain level.
How do you know when your code is clean? How is it you determine whether your code is cleaner than another person's from your perspective?
Well, there are a couple things that I like to look at as like a base. Things like the size of files, first off. If the files are large, if there are multiple files that are large in the many hundreds or thousands of lines, then it's an immediate smell that there's some serious problems in the code because it's probably not very well separated, not very abstracted. It's probably just big giant master classes. Another easy thing is, well, I guess expanding on that is the size and length of the methods in those classes. If there's a bunch of big, long things that are 30, 40 lines long, get really worried. I usually try to keep them around like 10 to 20 lines at most on a method. And again, following that single responsibility principle where they're really just doing one thing. Naming is another one. So if stuff's not named well, it's a huge problem. I still, as of only a couple years ago, worked with plenty of people who would name variables A, B, C, and D in their methods. And unless you happen to write the code and memorize what it was, no fucking idea what A, B, C, and D are, or why you're multiplying A by D and then checking to see if it matches some other thing. Code Complete, yeah, Code Complete is a great book. I mean, I'd say those are kind of like the obvious things that I look at first that point it out. And usually when the code is bad, those two things are there right away. But the other thing you'll see is a lot of tight coupling where a lot of things are referring to other things using no interfaces or abstractions at all. And there's just a whole lot of things. In Unity projects, it'll be a lot of things calling into singletons or static classes most of the time, where there's like, and you end up with big spaghetti code like Jerry's saying there, where things are just everywhere is linking between, and if you change or remove one piece, everything kind of falls apart. But I'd say the best way to get code clean is to just go through the Code Complete book and the Clean Code book. Both of those really kind of dive in and push with some really good examples, like how and why to keep things clean and just follow solid principles. It's
I wonder something. You mentioned the singletons, and it's a kind of not cleanings. Then how do you manage the web service calls, like the storing data from the web or APIs or in other places? How do you
no, when I say so I've kind of gone back and forth on singleton stuff, and the biggest issue that most people have with singletons is that they're not easy to test. You can't just usually inject in a different test thing. In Unity, that's much less of an issue though, because almost nobody does unit testing in there. So I wouldn't say that like you don't want to have any singletons. Like I still use them on occasion. A lot of time it just makes more sense than any of the alternatives. It's just a matter of when the projects where I've seen it be a big problem is where there are a ton of singletons and they're all referencing each other back and forth, and then a little change to one of them breaks the entire project, and then it starts to get messy, and that's not. Yeah, you don't have to do that when you're using singletons. You can use them and keep them relatively separated and clean. It's just sometimes I see what they're essentially doing is creating like a big giant master class of functionality that's referencing state across a whole bunch of other objects. They're basically taking like one big master class and splitting it into 4 or 5 that are all just tied right back into each other and calling into each other, and it's not much better. So it's but like I said, it's not like you don't ever use singletons and Unity stuff. Like I think that when people try to push against it, it's not really realistic. There's no dependency injection built in. Yeah, it's not just you. So it's I still use them. So I just try not to use a bunch that are tied to each other. Other systems will access those, but not. I try not to have like an entity manager calling into a game manager, calling into an input manager that's then accessing the entity manager, and all kind of looping around, and try to keep the dependencies just going one way.
I see. I mean, for those kind of things, you can call the event system and then without
Yeah.
considering it. But for right now, what I'm using for the project, especially getting the data from backend server and storing in the game, is the singleton. It seems like the one of the good solution, not the best maybe, but you have to. You don't want to retrieve the data again and again every time you need it.
Right. Yeah. And in the Unity stuff, it's you know the life cycle of your thing. It's a lot different from a lot of other programming where some of these things that you would want to avoid in a web project or a business app, they make more sense in a game development sense. Oh, that's another good link. Chris is just full of all the good programming links. Go check this out.
Where are those links? I am not able to see them.
Oh, he's posting them in the chat channel here. Let me drop them into the other
I'm
chat too.
Using it from the phone, so I'm not able to see.
You don't see the little chat area. Yeah, well, let me just. I'll paste all of the links into the other chat, and then I'll put them onto the page too. You got some good ones in here. Copy.
If you're in the Google Hangouts, top left corner icon is a little blue bubble. Click on that one.
There's. Let me. Oh.
It may not show up on the phone version. I've never tried it.
Yeah, I'm using the phone version, and there's nothing like that. And when I see the chat is empty actually. Like,
oh, okay. Yeah, I'll post. I'm just gonna put all the links into that live page. I'll just hit edit and drop them in now.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of reading material there.
Yeah.
Keep me busy.
A lot of good stuff. Let me just add in a new section. No, it's cool, Chris. Those are good. I think those are all very, very helpful links. I just have to get them pasted in real quick. Text editor. If I can drop those all in. Like that.
I'm going to take the subject somewhere else. Like, you're also using the var component that is a var variable instead of defining what is the type a bit frequently. Are you using this for some kind of bugs and unboxing, or is there any other reason? Or
no, just because it's shorter and it's quicker to type now. When it first came out, I kind of avoided it, but now I just use the var
I can
keyword
use
whenever
var now, actually.
the type is obvious. Like when I know what it's gonna be, just because the other type is right there on the edge, then I'll usually just use var. It doesn't make it. It just replaces it when it compiles with int or whatever the actual type is anyway. But it's mostly just to shorten the length of the code when the type is
Okay.
well known.
Is there any drawback for using var, like first define or
No. So like a performance wise or anything, it just when you do the compiling, it does the swap in the IL generation. So it actually replaces var with whatever the actual type would be. So it's just var in the text there, but in the code it's exactly the same as putting the type, or in the compiled version of the code it's the same. There's just a little shortcut that tells it to automatically put in the type. That's why when you do the when you put it in there and you try to access things on it, it already knows what the type is. The editor and the code editor know what it is. It's just shortening the name basically, or the type name. And like I said, a lot of the time it's not, that helpful, but sometimes I'll just put it in there instead of typing out the longer name. It's really pointless for something like an integer where it's typing 3 letters, but I think I've gotten into the habit of just using var for most stuff now. I don't know about anybody else. Chris, do you use var often? Or all the time? Yeah. Okay.
I thought it was always bad when I first started seeing it in other people's code, because I was like, why would they do that? Because I think I was talking to other people and they were mentioning that it was from JavaScript, and then so it was just bad. But then I started seeing the benefit of it, and that's especially with if you know the type and it's something, for example, player movement controller. Do you want to type out player movement controller, then the variable name, and then declare it whatever, or do you just want to type var and then do the rest? I mean, it just really cuts down your typing and makes things a lot faster. And so I've actually started to like var.
Yeah, I find the thing on top of the typing is just the line gets shorter and it's easier to read. Visual Studio at Austin MC. Oh yes, that's true.
Yeah, I definitely make use of that autocomplete. It's definitely really fast for everything. I came from using what was that? Notepad++. That's right. I used to like doing everything the hard way because I was really dumb. And so then I started to realize recently that that's not the way to do things. And I'm definitely taking full advantage of all the tools available out there.
Oh yeah, the tools are number one. You gotta have the good, right tools for everything. Reminds me of like doing some SQL stuff recently, and I got the opportunity to show another developer the Redgate SQL tools that let you do like data differences and let you select the data that you want to push from one database to another, or the schema changes, and it's like a nice, pretty UI with everything spelled out, and like it's good tools make all the difference. I think that for just speed and not screwing up and making your job easier. I love good stuff. The other tool I love is Ozcode. That thing's awesome. If you're using Visual Studio, it's a great debugger extension there. I don't know if any of you guys have tried that thing out. It's really cool though. Lets you search for anything in the data when you're at a breakpoint on an object. So it'll search like all the way down in all of the child objects for any string or value. It's really cool. Oh, this has another link. I'm gonna post this one in there too. We should use var. Yep, I'll post this one in too. All right. Well, I think I need to cut this off pretty soon. We've been going for almost 2 hours. Wow, it's the longest Q&A ever. It was a good one though. I'm fun. She's better naming. She's better API. Yep, totally agree. Looks good. All right. Yeah. Well, I guess I think I can cut it off unless anybody has anything else important. And
No, it's been a great It was a great QA. I'm glad I woke up a little late for it, but I'm glad I still hopped in.
Yeah, I'm glad you came. It was a lot of fun.
Glad to drop in. It's time to go back and code.
Yep, I gotta do the same. I gotta go make some
Yeah.
food for some kids and then get to coding.
Yeah, thank for it, and it is much more suitable for the European ones where I live actually
Oh, okay.
this time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think we'll do another one on the weekend then next week.
I don't know how many European participants you have, but
Huh.
it's fine. If
Yeah,
there
that
is
is a good number. Cool.
if there is any other links sent on the Hangout site, can you share it also YouTube site, like the Word
Yeah, I
document
just put them onto
or
that live link. I need to fix up the links. They're a little bit long and non-clickable, but they're on there now. So you should be able to at least see them, and I'll format them in just a little bit.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, everybody. Good talking to you guys. Just send me an email if you need anything before the next Q&A. I'll be around though.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.